This episode is brought to you by thedolphinwars.com.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 361 of King Dolphin TV. This is our third annual discussion of the Air Race Classic run by the 99s. And I am once again happy to have our local race classic team, the freaking awesomes, led by Lin Caywood and Susan Bial. We will be going over the route of the course, and we'll go over some other things as we go on. But before we get started, and Trike is helping me, as you can already tell, before we get started, if you like these interviews, if you enjoyed the reviews we do, the Just Cuz, please like and subscribe, and please watch the previous episodes. I have a new playlist up. I'm trying to get the watch hours up so we can hit that 3,000 threshold. I am close, but we got to get over that. We've got to get over the hump. And also, if you are so inclined, please consider putting some ducats in the bucket. We have the tip stream up, and the latest comment, courtesy of FKHC 2005. Don't want Snorty and Trike to send a squadron of Mustangs. The P-51, for those of you in Rio Linda, because you didn't pay here so that this doesn't happen. Please consider putting some ducats in the bucket. You don't want those two characters coming over knocking on your door. I will have the trip stream up, but it's also in the chat, so if you want to click on it. And thank you to FKHC for not only the remark, but also putting a couple of ducats into the this tip stream. And there's the link if you want to tip King Dolphin TV. All right. So we've had them on before, and it's always a great time when they visit. So welcome, Lynn, and welcome, Susan.
Thank you so much.
Good to be here.
And this is our second time with this current team.
Well, yeah, on King Dolphin, but Susan and I have raced together how many times now? Six? Five or six.
This will be six, I think.
This will be six.
Okay. But twice here on the show.
Yep, twice on the show.
Oh, good. All right. Let's get started with a little background. As you two know, I'll ask questions, but since we've been on before, it's just going to be like an update, and then I'm going to allow the chat to have more time to ask various questions.
Sure.
So, all right. So for those who may not have been here before on the chat, please give us a bit of background. How did what you do before you decided flying? What got you flying, and how long have you been affiliated with the Air Race Classic? And
you want to start, Susan?
I've been flying since 2005 after I sold a company, and it was a company that dealt with the FAA. It was a systems engineering firm. And after I sold, we decided take a little time. I was going to learn to fly. And I think that was about a year after Lin started. And I started flying out of Frederick Airport and started doing the air race when we held it and started the race in Frederick. Was it start or terminus?
It was a terminus in 2010.
Terminus.
Yeah.
That was my first year of racing. Do you remember what year that was?
That was 2010. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that was a fun ride. Ended up in Frederick, and then we started the race out of Frederick another year.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep. 2017.
We did the they had the as part of the events they had the baseball team.
That was fun.
Yep. Yeah, with the baseball game.
So okay, and Lynn, so you started racing about the same time, or?
Yeah, so I started flying, like Susan said, I got my ticket in 2004. I started taking lessons around 2001, but I just kind of played around a little bit until 2004 when I finally broke down and got my own certificate. But when I took an early retirement back in 2020, I started pursuing the rest of my ratings. So now I'm a flight instructor. And so I do this full time now. And I got involved with the air race. Same thing. We were asked, the Frederick 99s were asked to host the terminus in 2010. Susan and I raced on separate teams. And we got together, I think, at the terminus of that race at Frederick and said, hey, why don't we race together next year? So we did. And we raced together on and off until 2016. We missed a couple of years because the two of us didn't race. And then we got back together last year. So the band's back and we've done pretty well together. So
in other words, if you can't beat them, join them, huh?
That's right. Yeah. I really, since we trained kind of, at the same flight school, we kind of have the same, I don't know, we just gel together real well on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I did want to correct that it's not the 99s actually that runs the race anymore. They used to. The Air Race Classic is a separate nonprofit, and they took it over. It used to be called the All Women's AUTAR, All Women's Air Transcontinental Race or something. And in 1974, they reincorporated to become the Air Race Classic. So this is a 48-year that the Air Race Classic Inc. has run it. But this is it's been running continuously since 1929. It's
Right.
12 years during the war and
4 years, right?
and two COVID years.
That's right. So okay, let's see. So this year I took a look at the route, and before we do that, tell us what airplanes are used in the route. Are there restrictions in the types of airplanes, that type of thing?
Sure. Do you want to take a crack, or you want me to do it, Sue? Or
well, I know I had a turbo mini, and that was not allowed to race. So normally aspirated, single engine or multi-engine.
Mm-hmm.
And are you doing anything with experimentals this year, or not yet?
We did not have any experimentals asked to race this year, but Susan's correct. It's a minimum of 100 horsepower, maximum of 300 per engine. And you have to be able to fly max continuous power. So that's why Susan's Mooney couldn't fly. Some of the new Lycomings, rebuilt Lycomings that are coming out have power limitations, 5-minute limitations. The Rotax engines have a 5-minute max continuous. So anything that can fly full throttle at max continuous power can enter the race. And it has to be stock or modified stock. So we currently don't allow experimentals.
So the Mooney was just over overpowered?
Was a turbo.
It was a turbo,
Oh, okay.
so it couldn't
turbo.
fly max continuous. We also have a new class starting last year. We broke out the we used to call it the collegiate, and now it's called the intercollegiate. And those are the ladies that are representing a college or university. So we kind of have two different classes now, but inside that intercollegiate, we have something very unique. I just said that you had to fly max continuous, but we have something called EDMA, which is electronic data monitoring airplanes. So airplanes like a G1000, we do allow those teams to fly at a specific horsepower instead of most of those 172s. I think max continuous is like 2,700. And we allow them to fly at, say, 2,600 or 2,550, something like that. And then we run a program, and if they exceed it, then they get kind of speed, not really penalties, but they get speed adjustments, and they get scored very uniquely. So we're working on that. We may open that up to the other class, to the competition class, but we're still doing research on that. So the air race has really kind of come into the 21st century with that kind of stuff. So we're pretty excited.
Okay. And let's see. I will do the shout out. I know I forgot to do the shout outs. I will do the shout outs after toward the end. So please, sorry. Hello, Agent Pepsi One, Legatus, FKHC, and of course our producer Sandra with Trike in the background. Okay. So Max, for those who probably don't know, what is max continuous?
That's as fast as the airplane will go.
Full throttle.
Push the throttle all the way in, prop all the way forward if you have a adjustable propeller, and that's as much power as the engine will make. There are some techniques and to kind of squeeze as much as you can out of an engine, but really you can't. Like I said, some of these engines come now with a manufacturer's restrictions that say, hey, when you take off, you can go full throttle, but after 5 minutes, you need to throttle back and only fly the plane at a certain RPM, maximum RPM.
Okay.
So that can restrict your speed, obviously, because you can't push the throttle all the way in. So it's kind of like stepping on the accelerator of the car.
Okay. Now, this is not a race per se. You don't have. It's not like NASCAR where you've got all sorts of people in one formation. You don't do formation flying. How does that run?
Well, it's kind of unique. I think Susan and I would argue that we don't really line up formation, but we do fly very close to each other because we're passing each other. You're right in that it's not the first person that lands. It's not fly fast and turn left kind of stuff. We have a course, and you'll show the course. But before we race, we have to get handicapped. So a little bit like golf, where they try and even the playing field. So every plane has to go to 6,000 feet density altitude. We fly a box. They figure out what our average what the maximum potential for the true airspeed is, and then they give us our handicap speed, and that's what we have to beat. So fun. Susan can attest to this. We talk about kind of how we take off, and then how sometimes we pass people, and sometimes we get passed. And do you want to get some insight on that, Sue?
So we have a roster of what planes other teams have, and we know what our handicap is and what we can fly. So we know when we're going to be passing someone. We also know who's faster than us. And it's not about who passes who. Like Lynn said, you could be the last one to take off and the winner. So you're beating your own handicap.
Okay.
And there's a lot of strategy that gets in. And when you show the map, that'll kind of bring it to life. There's a lot of strategy about when you fly and how far you go on each leg.
Yeah.
and you're beating your handicap, and you're making smart decisions on altitude and weather.
Yep.
Okay. So in essence, you're just chasing after yourself.
After yourself, but there's always that pressure to say, well, team 6 is leaving,
That was the
We
hardest
know
thing
that
to
we
learn,
don't
to
know.
sit back and wait.
Right.
Like, this is our plan, this is our strategy, we're sticking to it. And so let them all go.
We
And
were
we've
actually
done really well with
Yeah,
that.
we have done. We were actually told one year that one team's strategy was to follow our team. And they did. They followed us. They were on our heels the entire time.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be pretty funny that way, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. And you can only fly during what they call day VFR, so visual flight rules. We have a time we can take off. It's artificially set. The ARC sunrise is 6:30 a.m.
Mhm.
Sunset is 8:30 p.m. So it could still be daylight, but in some areas it's not. And so that's the only time frame you can fly, and you can't fly in the rain. You can't fly. Well, if it's VFR, you can, but you can't fly in instrument conditions. You can't fly in the clouds. So we ran into some of that last year, where some teams just weren't comfortable with flying, say, in marginal visual flight rules, where that's where experience comes into play. Susan and I were like, we got this. So we were able, and the winners, I think the winner from last year, Debbie Dreyfus, Team 20, and Joy
Okay.
They took a chance. We stopped at a stop to check the weather, and they took a chance and turned the corner, and they came in first place. And we didn't do too shabby. We came in 4th last year.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Let me show the route. If you've seen the routes previously, and if you remember them, guys, they have a tough route here. They have an absolute tough route this time, and I'm going to bring it up here. Let's see.
This is definitely the toughest one I've flown. I think we had a tough one in 2014 too, Susan. I thought we did.
Yeah, we were doing a lot of mountain flying.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Isn't the easiest win to start last, then use your munitions to target those in front of you? So that's that. There's some strategy, and the first 10 teams are by lottery, so you can make that decision whether you're going to launch or you're going to sit back and wait. You're smart. You should be racing with us.
Yeah, isn't the easiest win to start last, then use your munitions to target? Way to go, Phantom!
I love it. That's an excellent observation, really.
And Agent Pepsi 1. Let's see. She's saying, if your esteemed panel members were smart and pragmatic, they would never, ever, ever let me near the controls of an airplane, let alone into flight school. Agent Pepsi 1.
We've got that noted.
You could do it.
You could do it.
We can help you out, though. I'm a flight instructor. Nothing scares me anymore.
Okay.
Your wife can attest to that too.
Yeah. Let's see.
So the start is actually in Fairhope. You can see down in Alabama, down in Mobile Bay. And then we kind of head northwest the entire time, except for our one little jog down from Gillette. So it's a very, up until McPherson or so, you could see the contours on this map. This is why I like this one. It's easier to read on with the other one, but the greener it is, the lower it is. So we're starting at sea level, and Spokane's kind of in a valley too. So we're not going to be too high elevation wise when we get to the end, up in that Northwest Territory, but we're going through some of the highest mountains through the Continental Divide, and the Rockies there. Once we leave Gillette and get into Rock Springs, up through Jerome and into La Grande. Once we get to La Grande, then we're kind of down in the lower elevations again. But we're going to be, I think the elevation of Rock Springs is somewhere around 7,000, maybe 6,000 in change. I'll have to look that one up for you. But what is it? KRKS? Yeah.
Yeah, KRKS.
Yeah. Let me look that up. I should know this, but we haven't done our strategies quite yet. It's elevation 67, 65. Yeah, so that's kind of our highest elevation. But then to get over mountains, we got to get through a pass that I think we've got to be around 9,500 feet, 10,000 feet to get over.
Okay.
So it's not always a straight line.
No.
Right. Yep, exactly. The fastest route
Passes and
is
deviating.
Yep. We may have to go through a pass. We may have to go south or north around a stationary object. They call it granite cumulus or cumulogranite. And you don't want to be running into that.
Yeah. Let's see. Going back. I gotta say is total rates distance 2,108 nautical or 2426 statute. And he's saying, okay, what's the difference?
Don't ask me why, but I guess when they were deciding airplane stuff, a lot of it is the terminology is French, actually, because the French got involved very early with aviation, but they also didn't know any other thing besides like boating. So a nautical mile is about 1.2, I guess, when you to get to a statute miles to calculate it.
Yeah,
so it's a little bit shy of a statute mile, but they figured we were all captains of our own ships.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm looking.
So with the route, we have to go by each one of those stops.
Yeah.
If you go and land at another airport, you probably lost the race.
Oh, okay.
You have to land every evening at one of those stops. You can't land off the route.
Yep, we have to spend
You
the
can go
night.
as many legs as you want or as few as you want, but you have to finish in 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the strategy.
Yep.
So you can bypass. You can't say like you're flying from Starkdale to McPherson. If you're doing good on fuel, you could buy, as long as you overfly Harrison, you can overfly.
Yes,
Harrison.
that's the key. You have to have enough fuel. So a plane to have enough fuel, like if you take off at Fairhope, to pass Starkville and land at Harrison.
Yep.
Okay, so you can bypass spots.
And you just call in, you're telling them you're going to fly by to continue. And the timers know that you're not logging out of the race. They're just plotting your crossing.
Yep.
If you fly by to land, they clock you out. You can take your time and land, refuel, do whatever you need to do. You take back off, and then you call in that you're re-entering the race, and they clock you back in.
Okay. So the clock is not running
when you're fuel.
Right. Yeah, when you're on the ground. If you made your radio calls properly.
Yes, as long as you make your radio calls properly, you land on the right runway, things like that.
Things like that. Yeah. And believe me, we have seen that. You also notice that up near the end of the race, after Jerome, is a little turn point at Homedale, and that was put in to avoid some very busy airspace near Boise, Idaho. And then Spokane, that airport is actually a towered airport. And we've run into challenges where if the race is going, we have to follow what ATC tells us. So if the ATC turns us around, the clock is still going. So how do we decide that stop is? Tacota, Washington. And if anybody actually is from there knows how to pronounce it better. But that is actually where the race ends. And then we've got about 30 miles where we just make our way up into Spokane. We'll do a ceremonial fly past at Spokane if the tower has time to allow that. And they said they're very excited to allow that. But the race itself, the clock actually stops ticking at that final flyover point.
Okay, so it's so in essence, um, you're done with the race at Toccoa, and then you just all stage. You just fly leisurely to stage at Spokane.
Correct. Yeah, we usually give everybody, depending on the distance, we give them about 30 minutes because we don't want them like going and landing at their friend's house or something. They have to kind of make their way there, but they can cool the engines down. Take a deep breath, sequence, because sometimes you're bunched up. But it's a very exciting end, and that flyover is I don't believe there's a minimum or maximum altitude. I think there's just you just have to cross over that point because we're using GPS trackers. We're using bad elves, or as Susan likes to call them, evil monkeys, to to do the timing for us, as long as observers on the ground at the low passes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see. Okay, Legatus asks, Susan, so this is your post-business new adventure. Is it more relaxing or just a different type of pressure?
Oh, this is so fun. So I still have 2 other companies three I spun up. I've sold one. So I don't have an awful lot of time to fly. So I'm so lucky that Lin is my flight instructor now, because she's able to get me current or keep me current, and I get to still enjoy flying, but I just don't have the time that I used to have. So I'm not retired yet, but when I do, I'll be flying a lot more.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're
so it's my post-pre.
Okay. And then yours, and then Lin, you just went from your business over to the flight instructing.
Yeah, I was in mortgage banking, so I wouldn't say that was exciting. It was a good career. It paid for my flying, and I took I think I was fully retired by 2022, I think, and so I've just been doing this full time now.
You guys are so young.
It's nice.
You're too young to retire.
It's nice.
Okay, Legatus Legionai says, since this year's course race has it going around through mountain ranges, what new challenges do you have to do?
Ooh.
Does it bring wind, elevations, etc.?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question.
He's got them all nailed there. So those mountain passes, the big problem is the density altitude. So when it gets to, if you're at 6,700 feet and it's 85 degrees out, that's very different. I mean, you still have density altitude when you're at sea level and it's 85 degrees out, but it really makes the engine feel, it's like walking up the hill or walking up the mountain. You're huffing and puffing. So the engine's working harder because it's kind of gasping for air, so to speak. You've got that thinner air. So the engine is going to perform like it's maybe at 8,000 or 9,000 feet. And the hotter it gets throughout the day, some of these engines have service ceilings around 15,000, 16,000 feet, which means you can only climb about 100 feet a minute by the time you're getting to that point. So these planes just like you don't want to climb a mountain when it's 90 degrees out, the airplane doesn't want to climb either as well. So you're not going to get your maximum performance out of that engine. So we have that problem that we're dealing with. So we're probably going to be, our strategies will probably involve making sure that we get into that airport, into Rock Springs, sometime during the day, and then spend the night no matter what time. Even if we get there at 10 o'clock in the morning, we're probably going to spend the night. So we can launch at 6:30 in the morning when the air is cooler and calmer. Right. Those mountain ranges too, you've got a lee side and a windward side, and the wind kind of blows down off those mountains, and they can cause some great turbulence. and a kind of a Venturi effect through some of these mountain passes that are very narrow. So once the winds get over about 20 knots, which again is what's 20 knots is 24 miles an hour or so. You don't want to be going through the mountain passes because the Venturi is going to speed that up, and it could essentially push you right up against the side of a hill. And so you don't want to be, and the turbulence could be throwing you around to where your teeth are going to fall out. So there's some real strategies about making sure you got cool, smooth air when you're racing through some of that stuff. And again, like I said, cumulogranite, you can't just fly that straight line, right? So we may have to decide, maybe the wind is better if we go south versus if we go north. So we have to look at the weather patterns and decide, is the wind going to be to our favor? Is the windward side of it on one side of the hill versus the other side? And it really takes a lot of planning to successfully get through those mountains. Anybody can fly through them, but you're taking a big risk. I remember, Susan, when we didn't know any better when was it, 2012, we went out to Lake Havasu. So that's kind of the southern route. We're going more of the northern route through the Rockies this year, but we were taking that southern route, and we decided to fly past Albuquerque at 2:00 in the afternoon.
That was so bumpy. Your head sitting, like your brain's just shaking inside your skull. Yeah.
It was just nuts.
Strategy. But, if your plane's just climbing like a slug, there's definitely a decision point. Do you go around, deviate, and get through a pass?
And remember, you're on the clock, right? And you're not going to make that time up.
You said Albuquerque, and it reminds me of the old Bugs Bunny line. I think I missed that turn on to Albuquerque.
Exactly. You got your best bet going the southern route is really Route 66. You follow that. There's airports all along that route.
The first air racers were using paper maps, and now we have advanced avionics in the plane. We have iPads that have all this info on, so we can make calculated decisions.
Yep.
Right.
So it gets more technologically advanced, and that's kind of another win ratio factor.
Yep.
Can you use all the available resources and make better decisions?
Now, for the air race, are you allowed to file IFR, or do you have to do flight following?
Good question. So if you file, you can file IFR, but if you do that, you'll get disqualified.
Oh,
so if you get yourself in a situation, you have to do it for safety. You're out of the race, but you live another day.
Right. So if you need a pop-up or whatever. Now you can file search and rescues. You can file VFR flight plans. You can get flight following if you want. It's your decision. That's a strategy. You just have to be careful with that because you don't know if they're going to turn you. But we do actually, we have to ask permission if we want to get into airspace. We've been allowed into restricted airspace. We've been allowed into towered airspace. And we have to be careful about MOAs, if they're hot or not. Those are military operating areas. They could be dropping paratroopers. They could be doing live firing exercises. They could be flying jets at high speed. So you just have to be careful about some of those military zones. And but it's great. And that's where Susan and I sit down. We start getting a little more serious, a little closer to the race. And we sit down and look at the route, strategize, plan. We have our own little kneeboard cards with that for every part of the race, every stop. We've got all of our briefing information so we can remind each other. Susan knows all the radio because she does all the talking on the radio. She figures out where we're supposed to go. If I had listened to her,
we might have come in now.
Right. We might have gotten through, but no, I don't think so. But we talk about, we have to agree where we're gonna turn to line up. It's because it's not always a straight line to get to the runway. for this flyby, and they have rules about being wings level a mile out. So there's risks you have to take, strategy as to how tight you're going to cut certain turns and flybys, and what altitude you're going to fly at. You got to be legal. We can't just decide we're going to fly at even numbers the whole time, because those are IFR instrument rules. And so we have to fly the legal altitudes, depending on which direction we're flying. So it's a lot of things you got to keep in your head, and we can discuss that on the fly in the plane too.
Okay. So the usual team setup is
Come here.
hello, Kitty.
This is Maverick. Here, I'll bring him. Come here, buddy. He has to be on every call. There he is.
Oh,
This is Maverick.
hey, Maverick.
Orville Maverick. His brother's Wilbur Goose. My aviation babies. So
Good.
he wants to be in.
Hey, Trike's making noise. Maverick might as well join in too.
I like a baby.
Okay, so Tasha's saying Tasha pondering menthol injection to skirt the rules. I don't think they'd buy that.
No.
Okay, so like following. Okay, team setup. So one person is flying the aircraft, the other one's talking radios. Do you guys switch off at any time? Like Susan spells you to handle the
We don't. Some teams do.
Mm-hmm.
I think it works better if you have one person that's consistently flying and one that's helping with navigation, setting the radios up, the nav, checking winds, airspace. So that is the traditional pilot, co-pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have other teams and they both want to fly, then they're switching. I think it works better if you have focus on one role and responsibility.
Mm-hmm. And then occasionally fight over who's going to go to the bathroom first when we land. But
that we do. Like, when we land, that is probably the biggest issue, because you have to wait in the fuel line so that you don't lose your spot. So it's a big
tag team on that.
debate over who gets to go to the bathroom.
Okay. All right. How long? Okay, we see that there's 10. There's 10 stops or waypoints. How long are the distances between the two? Normally,
they are in greater than 250, less than 330 nautical miles. So the average is probably about 275, I think, 280.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just enough to where you have to decide, because again, some of your strategy is how much fuel you're going to carry. A gallon of fuel weighs 6 pounds. So you need to decide, hey, can I go a little faster with a little less fuel? But I want to get to a certain point. So do I need all this fuel or not? And so we have to decide. Everybody takes off with full tanks at the start. But after that, you're making a decision whether you're going to fuel up the plane or only take a partial load.
Okay. Let's see. The only time Snoopy almost lost was Christmas, and the Red Baron invited him to Christmas dinner.
Well, we all do get dinner at the end, whether we win or lose. So the Red Baron does feed us at the end of this race.
Going through the mountains reminds me of Star Wars Rebel Assault, the training parts.
Exactly. Some of those canyons kind of look like that.
There are definitely some canyons that have scenes of Star Wars. They had to have been filmed there. They just look exactly like it.
Yeah, they're beautiful. And fun fact, I was in Jordan, a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I was in Wadi Rum, where they filmed the pod racing part. And it was stunning. It was gorgeous.
Sandra says, yeah, after teaching a while, nothing seems very frightening anymore.
And knowing the job you have, that's a lot to say.
What is it they say about instructors? Every day somebody's trying to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Please ask your panel if I can hire them to teach my husband how to fly properly. The last time I flew with him in a small plane, he scared the crap out of me. Background. He is a freight dog.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how he's
That's
he's
a
working
whole
at.
other breed of pilot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't know what straight and level and smooth is. Yeah.
Yeah. Sandra says airline pilots forget how to fly small planes. They try to flare 20 feet in the air.
Correct. Exactly.
Let's see. Let's see. He made rather abrupt turns. You would think he would have known better. His landing wasn't bone jarring.
Yeah, he probably lands like a pro. Yeah.
Yeah.
But those turns, yeah, those guys, yeah, they get paid by to deliver the goods. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Legatus asked, so you can ask for a tower flyby instead of asking for land refuel sleep.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that negative ghostwriter stuff going on at the end, but at the stops along the route, they're all non-towered. So yeah, we make our radio call and say whether we're going to fly by and then come in immediately to land, or if we're going to fly by to continue. And that means we're just going to get out of their airspace and we're not coming back. So that's for planning for the other planes, and so the officials on the ground know that we're planning to stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they log everything is logged electronically as you make your radio calls and.
Yeah. We have. If you want to watch along the route, there will be a map progress. We also carry spot trackers, so you'll be able to watch us like kind of move along the map, and then you can listen on an app called liveatc.com, liveatc.com, and every airport will have a radio feed, so you can actually listen and hear all the racers coming in and leaving.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So, since this is a race, this is a competition. For those that are new, what do you get as prizes?
Awesome. So let's see. I don't know. This year, I think the prize is $6,000 or $7,000 for first place, plus an Abington watch. I got one on right now, but each team member will get a watch. If you win if you come in the top spaces, let me see if I can get this off the wall. You get a medal, so that's nice to have. If you win a leg, you get what they call a route charm, and here's one, a little charm, and you get some cash, like $40 for first place on the leg, and it goes down to just 3 places on the legs. Everybody gets a little charm every year that has the race route on it. It's hard to see, but it's got little like red ruby stones in it. And I think that's all we've got, but we kind of joke and call this like the loser's bracelet, because if you don't get a medallion, you're carrying a lot of jingle jangles with you to show at least you won a leg prize. And Susan and I have placed, we did 10th, we did 5th, we did 4th. We've won a lot of leg prizes. One time we came in, was it 14th? One time we came in pretty low, but we still won a leg. That was the year I had my mother with me.
That was the best time.
That was we had a good time. Yeah, that was not about winning that year. but we have never not won something. So
okay.
I didn't win something my very first year. Very
Yes,
first year
ma'am.
racing, because you have to listen to air traffic control, and they're briefed. They had me do a 360 right before I was approaching the timeout line. You're flying full throttle, very low. You get an FAA waiver to come in really low. And I had to yield for landing traffic that had all the time in the world, and they're off the clock. So that was, I got nothing.
That's why we don't have towers en route anymore.
Such a good idea.
Yeah, it's just not a good idea.
And it overwhelms them. They have no, like, take that first, there could be 50 planes coming in a very busy year, and they're all coming in around the same time. It's that first stop. They're all high speed. And if they land, there's 4 pieces of activity. They have to go through the timing line. They have to circle. They have to land. They have to take back off, and they have to go back through it. That is just going to overwhelm a controller.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's where some of the strategy on where you want to launch. If, like I said, the first 10 places are by lottery, people that enter that don't own a race number, we own number 12. So if we look and we say, hey, there's like 8 172s in front of us, and the rest of them are kind of the same speed as us or a little faster, we may be the third or fourth person on the ground, even though we're number 12, and to launch. And that'll give us an advantage to get fueled and maybe get out of there before what I call the peloton shows up. So, but again, you could lay back and let people go past you. Or I have 87 usable gallons in fuel in my plane, graded on burning 20 gallons an hour, but at full throttle. But we may be able to fly, if we have enough tailwind, we may be able to fly past the first stop, depending on how it's spaced. So we've got a lot more options than the smaller planes that only have 40 gallons with them or 50 gallon.
Yeah. But it's always tough going from east to west because it's always a headwind.
Potentially. We had a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, we had an east to west race, and we had tailwinds the entire time. We were in shock.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was just one of these weird weather pattern reversals. We're launching in Tornado Alley. So we've had, I think the first stop or the second stop or both of them were on a race route in 2015 that we had to cut out because the weather was so bad. That coastal area there along the Gulf is very notorious for stationary weather fronts. So if it starts raining on Sunday, it could be still raining on Wednesday in June. So we're hoping that's not the case. We do have the option that the judges can move the start, a few stops up, but we just don't want that to happen.
Yeah. Okay. Legata says having 2 qualified pilots is a great safety issue in case something happens to one in flight. Yeah.
Correct. And that's why we require it.
They require it?
Yeah, you have to have 2 pilots. We've had people ask back in the day, back when it was the Powder Puff Derby, they did allow just single pilots, but and the original race was just one pilot, was single pilot. But we have 2 pilots for safety. That's the main reason. And somebody has to have at least 500 hours and or an instrument rating.
Okay.
Because that's your advanced training. The co-pilot only needs 100 hours of PIC, pilot in command time. So brand new pilot, you get your certificate and you've got, 50, 60 hours in your logbook. So you got to, you can't just get out of flight training and decide and be able to go, because remember, those 40 or 50 hours, only 10 or 11, your PIC. So
true.
So, it could take a while to get 100 hours PIC.
Yeah. Let's see. Looking for questions here. Let's see. You just want to blast some rockets, Agent Pepsi One. would having Jado or Rado a system for additional speed be bending the rules? Yeah.
Yeah, that might bend the rules a little bit.
They do a lot of maintenance checks.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, we get inspected at the start of the race and at the end of the race to make sure
If somebody does unusually well, there's a lot of suspicion that there's extra eyes on that maintenance.
Yeah, we've had women mechanics fly the race, and they have the ability to adjust the timing on the mags, all kinds of stuff. So we torque stripe the prop cover and the mags. No.
Now, are you allowed more than 2 people on the airplane during the race? Oh, okay.
You can have teammates in the back. We've done it twice. We prefer to fly just the 2 of us. The teammate can help and be strategic. The colleges like to have that third person because they all take turns flying the plane and getting flight training experience.
Okay.
But we the person in the back is can be your flight attendant and give you snacks and help with timing and make hotel reservations and things like that. When my mother flew with it, she had one job. Her job was to sign what they call the remain overnight list. When you land, that's you sign this list to say, hey, I'm on the ground. I'm going to spend the night here. And that's your order of takeoff in the morning. So again, that can be very strategic. So if you land, you want to get on that list right away. And so that was her one job. And Susan and I caught each other like checking it to make sure that she had done one job. It was pretty funny.
And Phantom Outsider comments, wait, pilot, co-pilot, where's the person who manages the galley with the snacks, beverages, and food? Well, we already figured it out. It's the third person.
Exactly. It's
not just ballast. Not just ballast, just the flight. Yeah.
Yep. We've got our water and our M&Ms, and we're usually pretty good.
M&Ms are the most peanut M&Ms are the best little treat.
Little protein. Yep. They don't melt when it's 100 degrees in the cup.
You find them on the floorboard.
It's normally, depending on if we're racing low or high. Again, you got to figure out if it's worth climbing. But it can get up to 140 degrees in that cockpit. You just really got to be careful about overheating.
Yeah. How about mid-air refuel? There's no mid-air. Awesome. I think they'd love that.
I've only done that in a simulator once, and I was able to hold the stick for 10 seconds before it ripped out of my hands. So, it's that would be fun to do. That would be fun to do.
Yeah. Let's see.
There's been a few times we wish we had more fuel. And there were times where we're like, damn it, we did put too much fuel in. We should add. But Susan's usually to the penny, I think, where we are on gallons that we need. And I would feel safe with our figuring that math.
Good. I know I've asked this before. Have you asked about like having those military ribbons you can put on your flight jacket to show number of races, your placement? I think it would look cool.
That would look very cool. And I'm going to pass that on to the I'm actually the vice president of the air race this year, but I'm going to pass that on to our folks because we did give some really nice pins for people that had raced more than so many years. And I think Susan and I got our 10-year pins, and it's really kind of cool. We do have patches that we put on. Not all of us use flight suits or flight jackets, but I do have a flight suit that I use with an open cockpit plane I fly, and I've got all my patches on the back. But that would be really cool. I like that idea. I think we're gonna launch with that one.
Okay.
I like that idea too. We won't race with a jacket. We want to try to keep as cool as possible. It gets really hot, and we don't want to have the vents open.
Yep.
So you stop, and the people there want to take pictures. You're like, that's the last thing. It's like, no. We had the Washington Post at the Frederick for the terminus, and they're out taking pictures. And I fell out of the plane on my face in the dirt. Like, please go take a picture of that. I ended up in a good shot on one of their pages, but they didn't get me on the ground on my face.
Although we've also encountered ice and snow up in those mountains.
Mhm.
There,
2014,
hail in Texas. I don't know
hail,
how that happens in June,
yeah,
but that's a
hail,
thing. And
hail,
apparently, you
tornadoes.
should never open both doors of your plane at the same time in Texas.
Yeah, we learned
It's
that
so
the
windy,
hard way.
things just fly out.
Mhm.
Kansas too,
One year we were down in Hereford, Texas.
and you can
Homer
smell
to
it.
Hereford,
Yeah,
yeah.
20
And
miles out.
we opened both doors. Our flight plan went flying. It was pretty funny.
So
And
you're
that
on
was
the
during
runway?
the time, early until a few years ago, you actually had to give the air race officials a paper flight plan to say, I'm going to fly these legs and I'm going to stop here. We had all our paperwork to turn in, and it
Mhm.
made its way to Kansas before we got there.
Let's see. If you want, I'll try and copy that, and I'll copy his
Yeah.
question and put it in an email so you remember to check out with. But you may already have written
Yeah.
it down.
My brother-in-law flew F Force too, and again, yeah, they're measuring pounds for how they're burning. We measure the gallons versus the pounds. But like I said, a gallon. Well, jet fuel weighs more. I can't. I think jet fuel's 8 pounds a gallon. But yeah, my 182. I don't have long range tanks, but 87 gallons is a good amount, and that will, if I leaned it out, economized, just kind of like if you drove the 55 miles an hour versus driving 80 on the highway, which we all know nobody drives 80 on the highway, right?
Mhm.
But you're going to get better economy. We can bring that prop back. From Frederick, I could get to Cuba. I'd be out of fuel. But when I'm racing, the max we could get out of it is probably about 3.5 hours. Because we want reserves too. You got to have reserve. So yeah, we can only fly about 3.5 hours before we got to before
And
we
what
got
are the tank sizes for the smaller, like 172s?
those
Is it 40,
172s
they're
are
about-
usually about 53 usable.
53? Okay.
Yeah, the
So
newer
that's a big
model.
difference, right?
Yeah.
53 versus
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah.
What are the fuel reserves for the Air Race Classic? Are they the IFR reserves of an hour, or are they the?
They're day VFI reserves, and I will tell you, I've only done that once by mistake, and I'll never do that again because it's too scary. But Susan and I personally like an hour. I think that's what Susan and I plan for. My G1000 airplane starts screaming at me when I have less than an hour's worth of fuel. It starts going in the yellow and it starts binging. And then when you turn, it like the fuel will slosh from one tank to the other and like make it look like you're empty in one tank. And it's not good.
No, it's
So
not good.
plus, if there was an accident, again, we've got a lot of gals flying around close to each other. If something happened and there was an accident on the runway or something like that, we had to circle. I want that fuel. So we like to have an hour in our tanks.
You still have to circle and come in and land.
Yeah,
Not just do the
we
time
got to
line.
come and land. And we've sat for
At
20
the airport.
minutes. Yeah, we have circled for 20 minutes trying to get on the ground. So
Oh boy.
yeah. So
And I think every year there's a team that doesn't make it. They have to land off airport somewhere.
Mhm.
Not at the off the race course.
off the race course.
Sometimes
Right.
off airport, but
We have had one in the 15 years or 10 years I've been involved, but
nobody had to.
15 years. Yeah, we had
Good.
one. They had engine failure, but yeah, we've had several. In 2022, we had several that misgauged the winds. The winds were more than anticipated. They tried to fly past the first stop, and several of them had to stop and get fuel on the way to the second stop. So.
And it leads to me that this with this particular route, it's going to be tough. You're going to have to really be strategic in doing your planning, especially in those high density altitude
Correct
areas.
Yep. Because we had to, yeah, because we don't know what we can look at our charts to see where performance can be, but we're already flying at speeds and settings that our performance charts aren't listed.
Oh boy.
So, so we're just kind of extrapolating on past experience and things like that. And, thank goodness for electronic flight planning, things like that. We can kind of mess with our settings and for flight and try and figure out what we need to do.
Okay. Hello, Snorter Poopus and Anti-Derivative Jill and Agent Pepsi 1, if I've missed saying hello. Let's see. Yes, Phantom, they have to be props.
Yeah, definitely prop planes. Anything that burns jet fuel is gonna be some kind of turbo. So they don't allow that kind of propulsion. Again, because you can't fly those planes max continuous power. But I saw something over there about why is jet fuel so expensive. It's actually kind of like it's just fancy kerosene. But jet fuel used to be cheaper than avgas. But aviation fuel is just ultra filtered car gas with some lead in it. But it's low lead.
Still okay. They're still doing the low lead stuff.
100 low lead. Yeah, there is some new stuff that's coming out. That's going to be an alternative that's being tested. But yeah, so it's I'd say on average we're paying a lot on the higher prices on the East Coast, but we're paying $5.75 a gallon for avgas. I think jet fuel is maybe $1 more right now. But you get discounts because you're taking on a lot more fuel than one jet will take on more fuel than all of the race planes combined.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I think I don't know about bears. I don't want. You don't want to be eating the other contestants when you land at the airport. And yeah, you need airplanes.
Yes. Yeah. But again, we choose the bear. But
let's see. And hello, Snorta Poopus. And there's the website. Yeah, I've actually got it up. I will share it. Okay.
And we don't have our own. We don't have a website this year. We are on Instagram. The air race does, but our team, we do have an Instagram. We have a Team 12 Instagram. We're on Facebook. But I don't have a Team 12 on Facebook, but I have Team 12 on Instagram. And then my personal Facebook, I post most of my stuff.
Okay. And if you want to put some stuff on our site, just let me know.
Yeah. But that's our homepage. There was a research project that we were given a big grant for. And there's the history of the race, a lot of information on that Powder Puff, the AUTAR link. We also in the fall, for you guys that are interested in flying and experience not really the air race, but we have a derby, which is a kind of a prediction run where you decide how long it's going to take you to fly a 5-leg course. And the kicker on that is you got to land at one of the airports. You got to figure out how much time it's going to take you to land. And that's where Agent Pepsi could fly with her husband because we do allow men in that derby. So you and Sandra could form a team.
Cool.
And, so that's a lot of fun because that's all prediction, and you're not flying full throttle. You're just picking a speed, deciding, what's the best strategy to make the time.
Okay. So in other words, it's more like a testing run.
Yeah, it's a prediction run. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But this race, the website has a lot of information. It's got a lot on the history. Somebody was asking, like where we've been before. There's a whole page that shows where we've stopped before, all of the race routes in previous years, race results, all kinds of good stuff, history of the race. And it's really very historic. I mean, our anniversary will be in 2029, and that's coming up faster than we expect. We already have contracts. We're working with 2028 right now.
Oh, wow.
We think we have 20. We're going to try and do a little recreation. We can't follow the exact route as 1929, but we're going to try and maybe combine some fun with that with the 1929 route, and allow maybe some other planes to fly along the route behind us or in front of us or something. I think it's going to be a grand time in 1929.
What year is that?
2029.
2029.
2029 will be our 100th anniversary.
Okay.
So Susan and I have to keep
Right,
our act together.
Well,
Keep our act together for a couple more
gotta
years.
figure that out.
Yeah, 4 more
But
years.
the race history is really cool.
Yeah, it is.
And some of the stories of the women that went through the first race
Race.
and
Yep.
second race and all the way, fifth race, they have some amazing stories of the kind of trouble they got into. What it was like. They're flying in open air cockpits, so they're wearing goggles, and when they land, they look like raccoons, and they have to go to a ball.
Chicken
or an
dinner.
event.
Yeah.
Or together, right?
It was crazy.
And get dressed up. So they're trying to figure out how to balance all that and still run a race that is really kind of dirty, and
Yeah.
they're doing their own maintenance and repairs, and
Yeah.
just
Not quite
making
the
it work.
cannonball run, but it's fun. Yeah, we don't want to sabotage anybody else's planes. That has happened in the past. And very recently, we had some fuel caps stolen off of another team's planes.
Oh.
But yeah, the colleges can get brutal. In the very first race, somebody threw a lit match into the baggage area. Somebody fouled the fuel of somebody else's plane.
Oh, man.
And it's the only fatal we ever had was in that very first race. Someone died of exhaust inhalation. The airplane that was designed, the manufacturer actually had a design flaw, and the exhaust was coming into the cockpit. So,
For those who are late coming, this is the course. If you've been watching King Dolphin TV, and yes, please watch King Dolphin TV. Previously, this out of the 3 courses we've been covering, this I think is the toughest.
Yeah.
Because it literally is cross country, over mountains, through hill on dale. Snow to Poopers has a good question. What's the octane on avgas?
100 low lead. It's 100. Yeah.
Sandra says Cirrus owners are finding the unleaded fuel melting composite equipment, including fuel lines and tanks.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Electronic flight planning, the only way Steven will find his way to his destination. Otherwise, he'd get lost on the way around the corner.
I'm telling you, man. If it wasn't for following the little pink line, Children of the Magenta line, some days you'd wonder how we all get to our across the country.
Always roll down the window and ask for questions.
Exactly. That's the beauty of being a part of the 99s is that some of the ladies who soloed in the 60s and 70s even said they literally would land in a field or they would land in an airport and go, "Where am I?" And we have one of the former presidents of the air race told a story about landing and what they thought was a strip. And they were exhausted and tired. I can't remember where they were. They were up in Montana or something. Turned out that they landed inside a construction site that had chain link fence around it. And all it was a paved road. It wasn't a runway.
We've never landed at the wrong airport.
Nope.
We've never landed on a taxiway.
Nope.
So far, so
good.
Sandra says, I don't let my students touch the GPS until they can find a way with a paper match and watch.
Me too. Me too. I make them look out the window.
I follow roads.
Yep.
IFR.
IFR.
Mhm.
Interesting what was said about aviation gas. My father-in-law busy leaded super high octane for his 1971 Boss 351 Mustangs. He says it
Pings
pings
otherwise.
otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah. We need that high octane for these engines. They're pretty high performance engines that are in these airplanes. We don't want any knocking.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nothing for the race. No, the winner gets. You can look on the prize page. I think we just made it live. There's about $20,000 worth of prize money that's going to go out, and then there's also goods, too. Like I said, the winners of each. I call it division, but but they're going to get watches that are worth about $800 a piece. There's luggage. There's subscriptions to flight planning tools and things like that. So there's lots of fun. And we get our jewelry. We get our bling.
You get the bling.
We've got
Do you have a sponsor this year like you did previously?
So we don't have like a huge monetary sponsor. If anybody wants to sponsor us, we're more than happy to take your cash. But SiriusXM has been gracious. They supply our uniforms. I'm wearing this is my team 12 from the previous year. I think I've got the Air Race on this arm and SiriusXM on this arm. We're getting jackets, and we've got rain jackets. We've got we'll get T-shirts for during the race. So they provided that. Anybody that sponsors us for more than $500, we'll put their name on the side of the plane. And,
Oh wow!
Yeah, so we've got it. It's not the cheapest hobby to do, but it's probably cheaper than a full blown cocaine habit. But other than that, it's.
Do you have a picture of your airplane?
Do I have it? Yes, I do. Let me see. I don't know if I could find it. Ray, I don't know if you can search it, Raymond, but on FlightAware, I think I'm up if you put my tail number in, which is 935 Foxtrot Alpha.
Okay, FlightAware.
And there should be a picture of me.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll show the picture on FlightAware or not. It used to show the airplanes. Or if you just Google me, I think it's.
Okay, FlightAware. And what's your tail number?
935 Foxtrot Alpha.
A good airplane. We've flown it.
Yep, it's a good plane. That's right. You guys took it to Chicago or something.
We took it to Iowa.
Iowa, yeah. So sometimes you can find.
So that plane's landed in all of the continental United States except for, was it Washington State?
Oh yeah, I am missing.
Will you get it this year?
Mississippi, Louisiana, Utah, Idaho, and Washington. And
all right,
so
well, you get a chunk done.
Yep, that's at Oshkosh. Yep, there's the plane. So I'm only missing what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we'll land in Washington, obviously. If we land in Jerome, we'll be in Idaho. Mississippi and Louisiana on our way. I guess you're going to find about it right now, Susan. I said we're going to need to land in Mississippi and Louisiana on the way to
Alabama.
On the way to Alabama. So we can hit all those because that's my goal is to land that plane in all 50 states.
Okay.
Well, all lower 48. Let's say that because I'm not taking it to Alaska and Hawaii.
Agent Pepsi One says, I hate Starkville, Mississippi, home of Mississippi State. I'm a graduate of MSM.
That's funny.
Oh, a little
there we go.
Old Miss.
Well, you can feel better because Hattiesburg was a race stop one year. We had to cut them out, and they're still not talking to us. But it was weather related. That was the year it was weather related. But so Starkville's going to get their glory first.
Basically, in the 3 days, you could drive that route and beat some of the planes LOL cars 24/7.
Potentially, that the race is, you could actually fly the race in about 2.5 days, but we build out for weather contingencies. The last couple of years, we've actually used all 4 days because of weather strategy. I'm not as young as I used to be. I think we thought about flying an extra leg last year, and I looked at Susan and I'm like, I can't even spell my name right now. So we had to take a break and spend the night at one stop.
Okay. Have the panelists ever put Visine in their competitors' beverages? That way you're helping them reduce the weight of the aircraft through, well, explosive and urgent blowouts. Asian Pepsi won, gee.
We're bringing you in the back seat next year, girl.
Oh, you're on the team.
You're brutal. You're on the team, man. You're on the team.
You just became a member of Team Freaking
You're
Awesome.
an honorary member for this year.
Let's see. 100 octane is one of the advantages. The good guys had it during World War II. I think Doolittle convinced the RAF to use it.
Yep.
The naughty side was still using 87.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Let's see. Would one of the flying cars of the 50s be allowed? Probably. Do those even exist?
There's probably one or two. There are new flying cars coming out. The first one's been approved by the FAA already.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I don't think those things are able to fly max continuous though. Yeah, and they don't have a huge range. They don't have huge.
Okay.
We also had the first electric plane land at Frederick 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
But it has about a 2-hour range, so it's not going that fast either.
Yeah. Do you know who made that plane?
The electric one?
Mm-hmm.
Not off the top of my head. Michelle had took pictures of it.
I have a friend who has a company working on that. I wonder if it's the same one. They were really close.
I'll text you the name.
Okay.
You're right. Hattiesburg does have terrible weather. That's why we cut them out of the race that one year. So that's why we're a little nervous about getting out of Fairhope. But if we get out of Fairhope, we'll be all right. We get up to Stark. Once we get past Starkville, we should be okay.
And she's saying thank you, Curtsy. I am honored. Okay, let's see. I think that is.
Oh, now somebody's stalking me. Yeah, on FlightAware. Yeah, it hasn't. I haven't flown the plane for a couple weeks. So, but it'll be up and running pretty soon, and you'll be able to see when we do our handicap flight too. If you see a box at 6,000 feet, that's the handicap flight.
Okay.
It looks like it's flying in a circle.
Yeah, big square. Yeah.
Now, when you deploy from Frederick to
Bama.
Do
Yep.
you not nothing? That's just a deployment flight, a staging flight.
Right. It's just a positioning flight. Yeah, we can do whatever we want. I agree. Fairhope, Alabama is one of the coolest places. It's like almost like a baby New Orleans without the drunks. And, but it's a lot of fun. We had a good time. Susan and I had a really good time. No, you weren't with me that race, but I did have a good time.
Yeah, I think
we were third that year, even though you were. Yeah, that was the year I raced with Robin Hatfield. They were the terminus in 2015. That was the one year you couldn't fly. Yeah. But,
Okay, so the Air Race Classic is going to be again, when is it? Because it looks like the sites are.
it launches on Tuesday, June the 17th. So we launch on
June
Tuesday
17th.
morning. Yeah, and we have to get to the terminus by Friday the 20th.
Okay.
And then the awards banquet, which we usually do live on Facebook, the awards banquet will be the night of the 22nd,
Okay.
Sunday the 22nd.
Yeah, send me the Facebook thing and we'll post. We'll definitely
We have a
post.
long flight home.
Yep, I'll send you some links and and watch the front page. I think you put it at airraceclassic.org. They'll change the splash on that front page to be the link to map progress, so you can watch the watch
Okay.
it, and then we'll do any links for the Facebook Live
Okay.
event.
Let's see. What's more stressful, trying to get the plane crew to the start point, racing, or getting your plane crew back home after the race is over?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. What do you
I
think?
don't think getting there or coming home is stressful.
Is stressful at all?
It's definitely during the race.
Yeah, and it's kind of a good stress. Like we do get a little stressy, but the good thing is, like, the stuff I freak out about, Susan just laughs, and then the stuff Susan freaks out about, I'm like, I laugh. It's like we stress out about different things, and so we kind of kind of help each other out on that.
Yeah, I worry plating on the ground. Once I'm in the air, don't worry. Lynn's all focused in the
In the
air.
air, I'm freaking out. Yeah, and it's all good. I mean, we have good times. We actually got to land in Dodge City.
So great. Yeah.
We didn't have enough time to get to the museum and to go to Boot Hill and stuff, but we did have one of the best steak dinners we've ever had in
It was
Dodge
really
City.
good.
So that was my goal.
That's definitely a place to go back to.
That was last year. Yeah, we want to go back to Dodge City.
Okay. So you so when you have your overnight, do they do things for you when you do?
Occasionally, yep. We were actually held hostage at Hereford, Texas, because they wanted us to go to the Lions Club dinner, and we're like, no, we're gonna leave. They wouldn't fuel us. But yeah, so occasionally, and we've had people take our clothes home and wash it for us because we miscalculated how many clothes we need to take with us. We've had hangar parties, all kinds of stuff. The communities in some of these places are just amazing. Hastings, Nebraska, I think in 2022, we got stuck there for a day and a half because of rain, and nobody could get out. So they had an old hangar with all these really cool airplanes in it. They brought all this food in. They brought music in, and we all just, we all played cards and, lamented about the weather. So the towns really come together and treat us very, very well, no matter where we go.
Okay.
Some very memorable places.
Okay.
They are. They're very memorable.
Do you remember, where was it? Scottsbluff, Nebraska, where Susan and I, we ended up in the Bates Motel, and that gal drove us like out in the middle of nowhere. We thought, everybody's like, this is how the movie always, like at the beginning of the movie where they show the person getting murdered and then they go back to the beginning of the story. That's what we were sure we were the beginning of the movie. We weren't going to wake up the next morning. It's always in Nebraska. Alliance, Nebraska.
Where was it they parked my plane? It was the first year of the race. Between two school buses to protect it from the tornado coming through.
That was Elkhart, Indiana.
Wow.
Pretty sure the plane was
we got good news and bad news. Yeah, that was interesting. And then there's been nights that, we ate out of our snack bags because there was we got in the hotel at 11 and there was nothing.
Yeah, you really don't know where you're going to end up sleeping. It could be a really nice hotel. It could be a place you don't want to touch the floor.
Yeah.
It could be your
Yeah, that would be cool when Tesla gets their flying car going. But I don't think it'll be, again, I don't think it'll be allowed in the race, but that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We'll let them go in our experimental category. You're safe to hear,
Benjamin.
Exactly. There were a few times when we were pretty sure we did hear
it. We were flying into Joliet.
Joliet, yes. We had to overnight in Joliet, Illinois, on the way to a race one time, and It was probably 11 o'clock at night. We had to walk to the hotel, but we
We
had to
were
go buy a
walking
bar.
down the streets of the town with our bag. Really dark night. People are kind of following along. Lynn turns around and screams at them, and they threw it away.
They left me alone. The federal prison's right there.
It's like right there. You can see the prison.
Wow.
One year we had strict instructions to not overfly the women's or the men's prison. We had to go between.
Between the two.
And if we deviated, we could be shot at. So don't deviate, right?
Curious if we've ever had a stowaway. People are animals. Except for a loose bee or a hornet, we haven't had any loose animals or people.
Oh boy.
We did think somebody killed and stuffed their teammate into the baggage one year because we never saw the teammate after the first stop, but they also didn't do well that year. We've had race teams crap out halfway through and jettison a team member too. So
there's always a little race drama that goes on.
Yeah, a little drama sometimes.
Okay. All right. Well, hotel where you don't want to touch the floor. Yes, Imperial Palace in Biloxi, Motel 6 in Marshall, the Hotel Continental in Frankfurt, Germany, by the Central Rail.
I'll put those on my list.
We will keep those in mind.
We agree.
We can share lists.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I think we can start wrapping it up. But before we do, I just got an email from Max Redstone, and I think Snorter Poopus would like this. Let's see. And I think you guys would find this humorous.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Oh, come on. Let's see. Okay. Where is it? Oh, I probably gotta upload it. Let's see. Let's see. Man.
Lynn will sing to you while you're waiting.
Exactly. I just want to say thank you to everybody again. We always enjoy coming on this, and
yeah, I'm glad to have you guys here. It's always it gets interest into the Air Race Classic and what you guys do.
yeah.
So let's see.
Be sure to let you know how we do.
Let's see. There you go, Snort.
Oh, that's cute.
Oh, that's adorable. Very much.
Snort gun.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I like that. Thanks, Max.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yep, he says. Snort gun.
That's nicely outfitted.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna go to show notes, and
it's time for show notes. It's time for show notes. Yeah, with Mr. Raven and Sandra too. It's time for show notes. We're bringing it on. It's time for show notes. You've all been warned. It's time for show notes.
yes, you were on there. You had to go quick,
I
but you guys
saw.
were on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Snort says, take care of a human, dolphin, doggo, Dalek, ferret, eagle, hedgehog, and peacock mantis shrimp. A wholly owned subsidiary of the dolphinwars.com.
There we go.
Yeah. And let's see. Peacock mantis shrimp. Oh, that's ugly. Snort, that is ugly. Yeah, he comes up with these animals, and he comes up with the animals at the end, and I just started putting it on there, and this one is ugly. Ew. Snort.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Does look like something that would be in a book.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Make sure you go to Pop Culture Breakdown and say you're doing a pod raid. And Snort Snuffles. Okay, we've got coming up this week we'll have Just Cuz on its usual time on Saturday. The usual chaos, shenanigans, and everything else. Next week we're going to have Janet from Another Planet come, showing us her wares and telling us what she does on her website. The 26th will be Just Cuz. On the 30th, we will be doing mysteries with Hannah Chapman. We'll be talking about the local cryptids that are hanging around in West Virginia. On May 7th, we'll be Not Ready for Pod Time players. We'll do another reading of All's Fair, a Dolphin Wars novel. And for those of you, now, you guys hearing me okay?
No,
A
you're
little breaking up a
Yeah.
bit.
There you go.
Crackling and breaking up.
It was better when you
Crackling
asked.
and breaking up.
There you go. Now you're better.
Better.
Okay. I'm speaking in tongues. It's got StreamYards does not like the show notes song. It's not liking it. I'm going to have to do some checking. So let's see. So next week, Janet from Another Planet. The 30th, Mysteries with Hannah Chapman, talking over the local cryptids in West Virginia. And on the 7th, the Not Ready for Pod Time players will do another reading installment of All's Fair, a Dolphin Wars novel. And if you haven't gotten one, shameless plug, please consider getting copies of the Dolphin Wars trilogy. You can find it on the dolphinwars.com website. And that is it for show notes. Because I'm roboting, I am not going to do the second segment of show notes. It is doing it again. Sunday, one night only. Trike, the ruler of the pod. Oh, no. He could do it too. Trike could do it too.
That's fine.
Let's see. Since you guys haven't, I don't think you guys haven't seen him. There's the lug.
Aw.
Very cute.
There he is. Yeah. 110 pounds of pure terror.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so let's boy, we did get a big showing tonight. We had Raymond, I could see you as a wrestling announcer. That'd be interesting. Let's see. Okay, we had Gary Ambrosa. Hello, Gary. He'll be on Pop Culture Breakdown as well. We had Phantom Outsider. Thank you for being here. We had Swift -1. visiting the chat. And then our amazing lifeguards, the mods who keep the chat fun here. We had Agent Pepsi 1. You'll get into an airplane. I'm sure these ladies could help you. Oh, and don't forget, you're on the team. You are the.
How to get on.
You know, in hockey, you've got the enforcer. I'd say Agent Pepsi 1 would be your team's enforcer.
Is our enforcer.
Yeah. We had Anti-Derivative Jill. Thank you for being here. We had FKHC 2005 with the generous donation and the advertisement for Trike and Snortopupus's collection agency. We had Max Redstone, and thank you for the cool picture of the snort. We had Comic Relief Crusader, and lastly, the hardest working bear on the internet. It's so good, it's got to be shown again. Snortopupus! You bar. Not scream. Hashtag Zoom. There you go, Snort. Maybe you can join the Air Race Classic. Okay, so Lynn, Susan, thank you for being here and telling us about the Air Race Classic. It's always a great time. And
we very much enjoyed it. I appreciate letting us tell our story.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Glad to have you. Once again, it is airraceclassic.org. You can go there and get the updates on the race prior to the actual race on excuse me,
June 17th.
on June 17th. On June 17th. All right. Well, thank you very much again. And hold on a second. Thank you again. Glad having you. Glad to have you here, chat. Love you guys. I will see you on Saturday. And you guys take care. And let's continue to make some waves. Stick around when we get done here. We'll
Okay.
see you.